welcome back to my channel. My name is Tara and my YouTube channel name is The Planting Bug. And in today's video, we're gonna talk all about Sanseverias. So this Sanseveria plant name is the Sanseveria lorenti. This is the most common snake plant you will see out there. A lot of people own these in their homes. You see them in restaurants, but they're just very common. They're the #1 snake plant that I saw and wanted. This guy is very heavy, so I'm gonna go ahead and set him down, but let's go ahead. So like I said, this is the Sanseveria lorenti. You will see this. It is really popular on Instagram and Pinterest right now. This bad boy is getting really tall and doing very well. Let me tell you a little bit about the care with these plants. First of all, another name that people call it is the mother-in-law's tongue. I think it's just because they look like sharp blades. But yeah, that's another name for it, is the mother-in-law's tongue. So this plant is native to West Africa, and it grows up to 6 feet in height and almost 3 inches in width. It is rare, but this plant can produce spring flowers. Usually if it is being grown in a home, that will not happen, but it does happen occasionally. I would love to see what that looks like because I've never seen it. Of course, this one hasn't. I have probably had this plant now for about 6 months. And as you can see, it is doing very well. I have propagated off of it, but I am very new to propagating and still learning. As you can see, I did cut here. So that was off of one propagation. And here's another one right there. I've probably propagated this 3 times. Over here is the 2 leaves that I propagated that produced some roots, and I've put it in soil to see how it's doing. I am a little concerned because the leaves are turning a little brown. So I don't know if I'm underwatering this or overwatering it. Let me kind of show you a little better here. You can see the tips are a little brown, and from the research I have done, if your tips are turning brown, it usually means you're overwatering them. Or if they turn like a yellow color and they start drying out, that usually means you're underwatering them, but I really don't feel like I water this plant a whole lot. So I'm just gonna kind of keep an eye on it and see if it does well. But yeah, just learning as I go. The next snake plant we're gonna talk about is the Sanseveria cylindrica. Another name for this is the spear orchid, and also known as the skyline spear. This is native to West Africa. So this one is considered one of the dwarf varieties. I love how the leaves spread out like a fan. And this can grow up to 3 feet tall. And it does flower occasionally. There are little white flowers that pop up. But like I said earlier, on the other one, I think if you grow them in your homes, you will not see any blooms, but we will see. I have only owned this plant for maybe 2 months, and it already has a little new growth going on it, as you can see right here. So it'll be interesting to watch this one grow and see how it spreads out. I'm sure eventually I will have to repot it, but I just think it is so cute and petite. It's a very hardy plant. I will get into the plant care on all of these because they're all very, very similar. This is the next snake plant that I have. It is just so cute and little. I believe this is also in the dwarf plant family. And the name of this is the Sanseveria trifasciata. It is the golden honey, or otherwise known as the bird's nest. As you can see, it's like very compact. As the other snake plant that I just showed you, the leaves are really long. This is more short and compact. And I am just learning about this one as I go. I actually got this at my local grocery store. It was just sitting there in the front of the store, and I grabbed it as soon as I can. And it is just doing really good. There's a new little leaf coming in right there, but it just kind of looks like a artichoke, where it just kind of cups each other instead of having a leaf here and a leaf there and a leaf there. They're very clustered together. And I just think this one is so cute. This beautiful snake plant here is the Sanseveria moonshine plant. And this one is just gorgeous. I love the lighter green leaves. And this plant I have is doing really good. I've had a lot of new growth coming up. You can see it here. If I take you down in there, you're gonna see just a lot of little new growth that's happening all around. But this Sanseveria moonshine snake plant is native to West Africa. You can see another little new growth right there. I have not propagated from this yet, but I'd like to, but I just think it is beautiful. I absolutely love the lighter color in the leaves, and it is just gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite plants. Okay, so let's talk about caring for these plants. One of the number one things, and all snake plants are very similar in caring for, so I'm just going to talk about them in general and how I care for mine. But number one is, let's talk about the pots that you have your snake plants in. So it is really important that you have your snake plants in very well draining pots. So let's talk about the pots that you want to have snake plants in. And in general, this is what I want to do for all of my plant care. But right now we're just talking about the snake plants. So you want to make sure that you have it. If you look here, this is just a decorative pot that I have my plant in. And 9 times out of 10, when you buy a cute decorative pot, a lot of times even at nurseries, they have no holes on the bottom. You want to make sure that your snake plant is in a well draining pot. As you can see, there are multiple holes here. So when you water, you want to make sure that the water is draining all the way through the pot and you see water trickling out of the bottom. That way you know that it is getting very well watered, but also draining out. You do not want water to be sitting at the bottom of the pot and have the plant sitting there with water accumulating at the bottom. That is going to cause root rot, and that is horrible for any plant, just in general. But snake plants, they like when you water them. They do not like to be watered again until that soil completely dries out. So these are very forgiving plants. You do not need to water them weekly. I check mine with a moisture meter, or I will just stick my finger way down into the soil, go in a couple of inches, see if it feels moist. If it feels moist, see, mine feels just a tiny bit moist, so I'm gonna leave it alone. You really wanna make sure in general that it just completely dries out. If you look here and I pull this, my soil can come like right up out of the pot. Oops, I'm making a mess. But anyway, you really want to let your soil completely dry out. You want to have well draining soil in there. It is just completely detrimental to the plant if you overwater this. That's why you will see browning leaves. That's probably the number one sign. If you see browning leaves happen on your snake plants, it means you're either overwatering it or you do not have a good draining pot and water is sitting at the bottom and causing root rot. So if that is happening on your snake plants, I would suggest that you change out the pot, get it into a well draining pot, and just see, if it has root rot damage. And like I said, with watering these, you do not need to water them every week. These are very forgiving plants. They enjoy being dried out. Let's talk about where you want to place these in your house. These can grow in indirect sunlight, bright indirect sunlight. They can grow in a low lit room. If you have a bathroom that just has a small window, these are perfect to go in there. A lot of times you can just put these in the corners of your house. But if you do, let's go back to talk about watering. If you do notice yellow leaves happening and dried out leaves, then you're not watering enough. You've neglected it too much. So again, number one, you want to make sure you have good pots that have holes at the bottom that allows for great drainage. You want your potting soil to be a good drainage potting soil. You want to make sure you're not overwatering. Let the soil dry all the way out, before you water again, and then make sure that it's not sitting in water. Again, you don't want that pot to not have drainage holes and the roots are sitting in water. That is horrible for it. Then if you see that the leaves are browning, like I said, that probably means you're overwatering it or it's sitting in water. But then if you see the leaves turning yellow and they're drying out, you're not watering it enough. So you just pay attention to what your plant's doing. Maybe if your leaves are browning, you can cut that leaf off. But yeah, that is my suggestion. If you notice your leaves are browning or turning yellow, is either being overwatered or underwatered. And again, as far as sunlight goes, you can have this in direct sunlight. You can have it in indirect sunlight. You can have it in a low lit room and it should do well. Just pay attention to how it's doing. I have noticed that my plants thrive when they're next to each other and not just sitting in a corner by themselves. I don't know why that is. They just enjoy company. So I always have my plants, not always, but most of the time I have them grouped together next to each other, and they really seem to thrive when I do that. So snake plants are definitely a plant that I would highly suggest a new plant mama or a new plant dad get. If you're worried about a finicky plant that needs to be watered too much or just doesn't do well and has an attitude, this is the best plant to get. Yeah, this is definitely one that I would suggest just trying out. They're beautiful. And like I said, there's like over 70 varieties out there. I definitely want to grow my snake plant family. As you can see, I do have a few, but there are so many that I want out there. There's one that's called a wellfin, I believe. I could be wrong, but that is on the top of my list. I would love to get that. But like I said, these are just beautiful, and I highly recommend to anyone that is thinking about getting plants to start off with one of these. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I do hope that you found it helpful. I am just learning as I go and sharing it with you, sharing what works for me, what doesn't work for me. So I hope it was helpful for you, and I'll be back soon with some more plant care. Bye guys.